Yep, just give me 1 second, guys. I think we're live. Or just want to verify here. Maybe. Yes. Yeah, so we are live. Alright, so I think you can see me here, I assume. Um, I'm just going to verify some things, so just bear with me here for the next minute or so. Alright, so I think you can see me here, I assume. Okay, yes, we are live. Let me just let everybody know. I'll do that. Technology, it's a wonderful thing, right? Techno. All right, so I am live-ish. Okay, so let's talk about stuff. So I did one of these I think Friday, but I had an echo going on. It messed up and had an echo going on. So let's talk about some other things. Oh, I see. Interesting. Interesting. Which one is this? Hmm. Okay. Um, yes, I think we're good. If you see anything, there's anything weird going on, just let me know. I'm trying to. Yeah, it says I'm live. Okay, I'm assuming I am. So I don't see anybody in chat yet. That's fine. I'll get started. So thanks for joining me if you have. I did one of these, like I said the other day. I was pretty irritated at the time. I did have an echo. I had both two mics going on at the same time on accident. But um, so the question becomes is so what are we going to talk about? So obviously I'm going to talk about this. Um, so that's the GM Screen Founder VTT Kickstarter that we ran on Tuesday that I ended up canceling on Wednesday. So why? Some people did ask why did you cancel it, and so quite simply is um, there are a lot of nuances in crowdfunding that a lot of people who don't run them or have any um, experience in that field don't quite understand. So generally, um, a Kickstarter, especially these days, is going to do most of its business within the first, I say, 52 hours. 35% for me personally. I have I did I have a minor in statistics, and actually I created a statistical model based on kind of the data points that I have from my own Kickstarter campaigns, and how they do within the first 52 hours should tell me how they're going to do by the end. And this is more suitable for like the adventure setting stuff that I've done. Um, and so so this one wasn't 100% applicable, but I could tell it was nowhere near what it needed to be. Um, Typically, for those projects, and we're talking about the Dungeons Deep projects, the Mistwraith project, the Heart of Tiberius project, those four particularly. Um, Obviously, the core rule book and this are a little different because um, it doesn't have. Make sure here. It doesn't have. Um, it's not exactly the same, so I don't want to compare apples to bananas, right, or oranges. So I want to try to keep it as apples to apples as I can, but in this case, so when I look at those projects, they typically I can pretty much guess within. Well, like Mistwraith was the first time I was like, I'm going to guess what this is going to end up being, and I was by the time it ended, now I've had about $1,000 of late pledges on that, so I don't count that. But um, at the end of the campaign, I was within 10% of what my model said it probably would hit. So um, usually I'm going to see 35% in the first 52 hours, and I would have to look exactly to tell you what it is in the first 24 hours because that's really as long as I let this run. But I think it would have been similar-ish, right? And I think we would have funded maybe the $10,000. I don't think so though. I think we would have come up short in the end. I think we would have. And it wasn't. It just wasn't doing what I wanted it to do, really. Um, and that's not just a monetary standpoint. Yes, we didn't get um, the actual funding that we were looking for, clearly. But another thing that happened was that if you look at what was backed, um, a good thing was a lot of it was the core rulebook. So a lot of people new to H&H coming in and saying, okay, I want the game, right? I've never seen this game before, so that's good, right? I don't, that's not a bad thing. But at the same time, the things that I was really going to have to fund was the GM screen and, well, primarily the GM screen. And so there was very little interest in the GM screen. So it really didn't push that returning backer model up very high. And the same thing with the Foundry VTT, honestly. But the Foundry VTT is a little different. I've already invested a lot in that, and it's already being produced, and there's not that much left to do. Maybe James will disagree with me, but we're close. I'd say 90% finished with most things. A lot of it's still just data entry, and I'll be doing a lot of that. But like the coding, um, under the sheet stuff that James is doing, a lot of that's already finished. So there's some things left, but yeah. So I'm not that worried about that. That was like more of like a hey, if I could pay myself back on a lot of that work, that would be great, as I've already paid for most of it. It's already been developed and finished, and probably should not have okay, so yeah. Um, so that is where it stood, and I think we hit 3K, 54 backers um, on the day after. So the 54 backers is what really hurt us, right? Our average pledge price was pretty decent. Like these rewards are not on the cheaper side, except the GM screen, the PDF, and basically the digital rewards only. Everything else was, pretty high priced. I mean, not high priced, but higher when you come to Kickstarter. So that actually is usually a good thing for a creator because your average per pledge is higher. And why that's really a good thing is if you're running ads, they make them worth it because you're going to pay X amount of dollars per ad, and you want those. So you want like if I paid $5 per ad, you want to at least get you know $15 out of that minimum, right? It's called ROAS, return on ad spend. You know, 3 is pretty good these days. Anything lower than that kind of gets a bit rough, and there's some calculations you can do based on what this what what the fees are going to be on that money that you're earning. What so it doesn't higher the better, right? From a perspective of a publisher or someone selling something. Um, so that was okay, but my ads really did not do anything. So this campaign page has been up since I think January or February of this year. Now, I didn't really do any promotional work on it until later. I did we did the page way ahead of time, and I was doing a slow burn. I was making sure that everything was we had enough, or at least we had a decent amount of followers. We had 644 followers on the page, um, and really what ended up happening is they didn't really convert very well. So that means that followers to the page do not really buy the thing. So that's not great. That was a problem. So followers did not convert in any meaningful way over that first 24 hours, and then previous backers did not convert in any meaningful way over those first 24 hours. It so this project was all based on catering to two sets of people, right? New players and old players. And the old players really did not come through for this. They didn't, for whatever reason, they weren't as interested as other people. Now, it's interesting because if you look back at, I don't think it's necessarily a hey, we don't like H&H thing. Because if you look back and you look at Dungeon Deeps and Cavern Knoll for H&H, it did much better, right? It did much better, lower lower average per pledge by far, and it did okay. It did $10,000 for a book, and I don't know what the average pledge was off the top of my head, but it's probably like 30 bucks, $35 per pledge. So, and I think there was like what, maybe it's a little higher than that. I think there's like 200 backers. I could look, but um, let's see. Let's just look. Okay, so here it is, 273 backers and $10,000, and I can go in here, and this is very interesting. You'll see some interesting stuff like what you can look in a Kickstarter. I'm not going to share any personal information or anything, but so $39.03. So it might be hard to see on the screen, but that's what the average pledge was. Now I can let me switch this just so I can see. I don't want to accidentally show anything I shouldn't. Okay, so that's project followers. It's not really doesn't really matter too much. The project followers, if you look at the project followers here, um, um, if you look at that, and then you can see that 726 um, were pre-launch followers, converted followers 17%. Not terrible. Um, so there's that. I was looking for see if I could find the actual. Let me see. The actual. So the stats that is allowed for you to see on Kickstarter has been getting better, but I don't know that I can go back and look at this currently. Anyway, I was looking to see how many people backed from the original Kickstarter that backed the next one, but that's okay. Um, so what happened, right? And that's the big question, and I really don't know. I don't think I don't think it's easy to say. We really don't know. And I think that's the frustrating part is like what happened. It seemed like there's a everything possible thing that could go wrong did go wrong. So let's recap. Um, backers, followers on the project page did not back in any appreciable way. Um, returning backers did not back in any positive manner. Uh, we did see some new people, which was good, but direct ads, did nothing. Like really did nothing. Um, then our lead ads, which is really what we did over time, is create lead ads is getting email address of someone so you can market to them. And those email lists did not seem to do anything really, and it really was a double whammy because those people were then targeted by our advertising, saying, okay, if you interacted with these ads before in any way, we will send you more marketing stuff for them. And that didn't really do anything because the original lead ads were not very good. Now, why that is, I do not know. I did check, I think yesterday, to make sure that they weren't bots, and most of them definitely were not. The service I used could not classify some of them, like probably 20%. They didn't really know, but by and large, it looks like they weren't bots. So they weren't bots. Um, so I don't know, right? It's just might not be something that people were interested in, and it's just it's a very frustrating thing because not only do you lose all this time and money based on what you're trying to accomplish, but it is a kick in the pants, right? It's ego, hurts your ego and all that stuff. And yeah, so I have over the last couple days tried to talk to people who have been in similar situations that have relaunched or will relaunch and see what their strategy was. And just like the ones that I've talked to so far, I don't know that I don't. It's like the things that they said that they wanted to do different, I had already done, or similar. And so I don't know if it matters, right? Is it going to matter what I do, right? I had a pretty a good product page. I had what I think was good rewards. The only thing I can think of that maybe I would do next time is do an early bird type of pledge levels where the first 48 hours or 24 hours you get some extra. So yeah, it's been a learning experience, and not everything goes to plan exactly because my plan, I had a very specific plan of what I wanted to do upcoming, and now it's kind of like now you just gotta figure it out and do something different and pivot, right? Because my plan was is essentially to run Kickstarters every 2 or 3 months, try to get as many in as I could, and spread around what they were so I can just continue to generate income is almost secondary to this idea, right? It's almost like I'm looking to build on each one, right? With new customers, new customers, new customers, new customers, new customers, new customers, new people interested in the game, or just Earl of Fife in general. And so what you're doing there is um, you're taking things like, okay, so if, this one's heroes and hardships. Okay, so all the past heroes and hardships people have an interest in doing this, and I gotta see what. Um, and then so they have an interest in that, and so they might have interest in other games that you're doing too. It's probably a smaller bit. Same with anything else, right? If I do Dragonbane, if I do D&D, if I do Mothership, right? There's some cross pollination, but if I do another Mothership and another one and another one, this kind of builds up, right? So yeah, it was that might not be exactly what works, and then you do have just the state of the economy for most people right now is not wonderful. So there is that to contend with too. October is a busy month for crowdfunding. It's a good month for crowdfunding, but it is there's a lot of competition as people try to get in before the holiday season, right? So people are trying to get that last campaign in before Black Friday, essentially, and we were too. Um, Now, it wasn't necessarily that I was like one that absolutely had to do it then. I just thought it was a good time. I thought we had enough followers and we had, a good chance of doing well right now. Whereas I thought if I let it linger till like next year, then it's been the page has been up for like a year, and that's it seems like it just being never ending. You gotta run it eventually. So yeah, that's what happened. Just kind of like everything that we tried did not work. I worked with a marketing team, like professional marketing team that have done things for other big games, and yeah, didn't work. So yeah, I don't know. Um, that's the problem, right? It's like when you can't like put your finger on what the problem was, right? Even in retrospect. Now, maybe we'll learn more eventually, right? They're doing some sort of analysis, and we'll see if it means anything, or if they're able to like pinpoint anything. It's hard to say. Um, anyway, I go back to Heroes and Hardships. I think it is a good game. I think it is well play tested. I think that if you play it, you will find some interesting mechanics in there that solve a lot of issues that combat, particularly, and other things, right? That have in games. Like I think the action point system or initiative system, whatever you want to call it, is really good. The combat track, it allows people to act more quickly. It allows people to not wait around so long for their turn. That sort of thing. It's flexible within it. It's almost like a mini game in itself. It keeps people interested and occupied and paying attention, even when it's not their turn necessarily. So I think that's the best thing. Like whereas you have rounds, it's like you go and you might just completely space out for another half an hour until it's your turn again, depending on how many people are in the combat, right? That's just, yeah. So, no, that's a problem with all round games, pretty much, that has a round. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I like it. It was very strange. I honestly um, I never actually played a game that had that in that did that. I don't know really where I came up with it, honestly. It just kind of popped into my head one day and I started playing with it. And because really what I was trying to solve was the round issue because I saw this as an issue where rounds would take super long time and people would just like totally not be paying attention and kind of just like days off, right, as they waited for their turn. And so I was trying to fix that issue. So yeah, I think in combat, that's one thing that I really wanted to solve. Another thing was that I really hated hit points. And re- okay, let me back up. I don't necessarily hate hit points. What I hate is bloated hit points. So if you have a hit point pool of 100, right? Like let's just say D&D, you have 100 hit points and you get hit for 20, and it's like, oh no problem, whatever. And I understand that you can say, well, it just kind of bounced off his armor and it kind of stung him and that sort of thing, and he's kind of like now he's a little bit more weary. You can like narrate it, and that's fine. But I was more interested in something that had the potential for high lethality that made combat not boring. So to me, when I was in a combat where I pretty much knew that I wasn't gonna had no like almost impossible to be injured or hurt in any meaningful way, it was boring. Combat is boring to me when it's like that. If I want to play a tactical combat game or something, I don't really know that tabletop role playing games are the perfect spot for that. Because usually your options are limited fairly, and there's very little impact to your character if you are injured or if you're hit and you have a big hit point pool. Just whatever, it doesn't matter. So really, I kind of like split it up and made this wound where if you get wounded, then you are impacted and you do worse in combat as it goes, right? And then some of those wounds can turn into something permanent down the line, or partially permanent. It like impacts you until you are able to get that healed or whatever. So that was the other main emphasis with the combat system when I started putting them together. And then, I thought, well, since all these things, I want to give you a bevy of options to use in combat to do what you want to do, right? So yeah, it's a lot, and I but you don't have to use what you don't want to use, right? If you like, for instance, like some people, like in playtest I saw, would make a crib sheet of what actions are best for their character to use and in what situations. That's a perfect way to do it. And Corbin says, I agree. If I can check off all my hits, I don't see the point in combat. You might as well hand the players the win for free if there is no long-lasting consequences. And I agree 100%. And even like, so me as a game master, obviously, before I did any of this, I was a player and a game master, and I really dislike, and this is why I bounce off OSR. There's two reasons that I bounce off OSR typically. One is the idea of random encounters everywhere, and it's just basically random encounters. Um, and so I just, and usually those are either hyper deadly. In OSR, they can be hyper deadly, but in other systems, they're quite the opposite of that. So why would I have a random encounter where I fight some guards on the road and I just decimate them, right? No, I don't want to do that. I don't want. I don't. That's not interesting to me. The other thing that bounces off OSR is hyper deadly, except um, there is no way to control it. So if I'm in a hyper deadly situation with my characters, I don't want them to roll one dice and take 6 points of damage and die, and not be able to really do anything about it, right? It's just like there's no strategy to it. It's boring, and your character is going to die with no, like, just for what? Because you had no ability to impact that roll whatsoever. I hate that, right? And there are games that I can cite for this, and people think it's hilarious when they go through like 5 characters in a session. I think it's stupid, right? I think it's stupid. I don't mind the deadliness, but you have to confine it into being able to make the correct tactical decisions as a player for your character that that gives you a chance, right? So I just hate the idea of I just roll that d20, and if that d20 is whatever, and my hit points are 4, and I get hit for 5, I die. Like, oh, you should have run. No, like, I mean, sure, maybe, but like, I don't have a choice when I'm in combat to really do anything. It's just like, you might as well be playing War, the card game War, or rock paper scissors. It's not. Why is that fun? I don't understand. Um, yeah, and like Corbin says again, ran Curse of Straw 5e, DM'd it. Random encounters really felt like a waste of time. I think there's a time and a place for them, but you really need to fine tune it, and I would agree, right? I mean, I personally don't run very many random encounters at all. There's sometimes I will, they're not really random. I'll be like, I just want to give the players a win, right? And you can do that pretty easy in Heroes and Hardships. You can just use minions, right? Especially if they're a higher PL, and you can quickly get like I do this quite a bit actually. PL2 game, I'll run a PL1 minion group or something, or mob, and so they can easily wipe those guys out. Or I use them for fodder in other games. There's easy ways to mix and match power levels in Heroes and Hardships. I do it all the time. But yeah, random encounters generally are not that interesting to me. And that's kind of like that's that OSR mindset where they really want that they don't really want a plot, which is really weird to me. I don't understand necessarily. Whatever that's how they want to play it. That's fine. But like then you have I understand that you can have like weird and interesting and cool random happenstances occur. But like some of it doesn't make any sense, and then your guy can get killed like that for no reason. Like I just don't. I wouldn't like that because I'm in role playing games to build a story with other people. I don't mind like having lethality. Heroes and hardships can be very lethal, but as a character in Heroes and Hardships, I have the ability to do lots of things to protect myself, to get an advantage, to do all these things. So I have the options, I have the tools in my tool belt to, make my survivability much higher if I'm smart, if I play smart. You know, I don't know. So that's my qualm with that, and one of the things I wanted to solve with Heroes and Hardships, have lethality, but at the same time allow the character to have the ability to do things that protect them. So that's really that was that part, and obviously I wanted to be as flexible as possible, have as many optional rules as possible. So you can tune the game your way. Do you want it hyper deadly? Do you want it less deadly? Do you want magic to be super? I think you can hear me now, right? That's strange. I don't know why it flipped. It flipped to my headset from my webcam. I don't know. You can hear me, right? Corbin, David. Yes. Can you hear me? I think so. It seems to be working. Yeah. No, it was me. I don't know. That was weird. It just like flipped my input device. I don't know. Okay. What was I saying? I don't even remember. Yeah, I just want to make it as flexible as possible. What I was saying that so one of the issues, if I had to be self-critical of the game, is it is kind of math heavy, and that really comes back to what dice pool system it was based on. That's old John Wick games, Legend 5 Ring 7C. So I did a lot of my play testing online, so it wasn't that big of a deal, even just with Roll20, which we do have a sheet if you're a Roll20 user. That's not full of automation, some automation. But yeah, between myself, I created it. I'm not technically a coder. I do work in tech, but I don't necessarily code. But I did the initial HTML and CSS coding on it myself. This is before AI could do it for you, basically. And then I asked one of my buddies and playtesters to fix some things that make some quality of life things on it. So it's still there. You can use it. It works just fine. But yeah, a lot of the rolling, just the math was just like that, and I didn't have to worry about it. I've played it, I played it face to face too, right? And one thing I did to actually play test it was play test it with my son. And my son, at the time it came out, came out in 22. That was 3 years ago. So he was 6. So he's been playing it since he's about 5.
and he's a smart kid, but like he can add the dice. I say, okay, add your 4 highest dice, and he can do it. It may take a little longer than somebody, so it's not that big of a deal, I don't think. There are some parts of the mechanical bits with rolling dice that is a little taxing a bit. The dice conversion part can be a little can be time consuming when you're trying to roll more than double the dice you're keeping. So you're not allowed to do that in Heroes and Hardships, and there are very specific reasons for that. But then you have to do this dice conversion, and that can take a little while. So Foundry does all that for you. It's very quick. Okay, so I find that Heroes and Hardships combat lasts far less time than something that's purely round based. So I don't play D&D 5e at all. But like, okay, if I'm playing Cyberpunk Red, which I do play, I find that, and we're playing on Foundry, we're doing it pretty quick. Everybody knows the rules, so obviously that helps immensely. But I find that Heroes and Hardships is quicker than those games, and you'll find that you're waiting less to do things. Even like you might have like a combat that lasts an hour and a half, but you're acting more often. Yes, you're doing smaller things potentially, but you're acting more often. You're more engaged in what's happening, and so it's a quicker process. And I've seen people critique it online, saying that it's slow, but they didn't understand what they're doing. I read, because it's hard to be a designer and take criticism and being just like and get kind of like defensive. I totally understand that, and I try not to do that. And I've been better as the years have gone by. But like, and I read it, and I tried to keep an open mind. Is this a valid concern? Is it not a valid concern? And that's very important in playtesting for anybody who's making their own game, and you want to playtest it. It's very important to take those criticisms, but at the same time, to understand when those criticisms are full of shit and they're not correct, and that's as possible as a good criticism. So let me. So their criticism that it was slow, but they didn't understand what they're doing, right? So and they showed that with the way they were writing what happened, right? Okay, they don't understand. Now, good criticism, for instance, in playtesting the game, originally, Hardships did something different. Hardships would remove a kept dice instead of you rolling a d10 and subtracting it from your result, or adding it to the difficulty, whichever you would like to do. So I found, after we were in a situation where we were in it was PL2 playtesting. So we're doing PL2 playtesting, and a character had a rifle, and they were shooting inside their range band that like the long quality, which will give you, I think it gives you a hardship if you're within like anything lower than medium. And so they had a hardship from that. I think they had a hardship from a wound, and maybe had a hardship because they were shooting through another person. Like, they had to shoot through their space. So they had 3 hardships. So at the time, I said, well, if that happens, then, and you go below 1 kept dice, you just still keep 1 kept dice. But it made it impossible, right? They kept 1 dice. They were rolling like 6 dice, so all that would get converted. It was not a good situation. It didn't work real well. It made it very impossible. It made it very, very hard. So I changed it, right? I made it more random. Yes, it does add a little bit more math, but I think it was a good solution to that issue. I always wondered if I should have actually created a dice pool that was more like World of Darkness, right, where you're looking for successes and not necessarily the total. And if that would have been a better fit. And I've always thought that maybe if I did like another game, I don't know if I could ever have the time to actually create a whole new RPG system. But it would probably be similar to Heroes and Hardships, but somehow use successes instead of a total dice roll. I don't know. That's neither here nor there, and that probably will never happen. But it's probably what I would do next if I did another system. I would do something that was a little different in that regard. Because if you know World of Darkness, typically a 10 and a 9, and I think an 8 are successes. And then you take those successes and you apply them to different things, right? And that's a way a lot of these games are today, to lower the math burden. And that's completely fine. I have no problem with rolling for successes, right? No problem. Because a lot of people don't want to do the math for whatever reason. It doesn't bother me per se, again, I play most of my games online. So, what else? Just about Heroes and Hardships in general. My general plan is I'm more interested in creating like settings and adventures even than I am like mechanical bits and bobs. I like mechanical bits, mechanical stuff when it fits in those settings and stuff, like kind of the stuff I added for here or Dungeons Deep and Caverns Old, all the dwarf stuff. That's all cool. And I don't I guess I don't mind it. I don't mind like doing the extra spells and stuff. But really, what I wanted to do, as far as a strategy for releasing on Kickstarter, is doing these settings and everything. And so I don't know where we're at right now. I still think I plan on doing it. I don't think I plan on quitting or anything. But I don't know. I got to see. Um, it's a lot of work. It's something I enjoy, but it is a lot of work. And it's like, what's your priorities? Do you prioritize making these games that no one buys? And that's a tough one, right? Yeah, me and my play group, we all enjoy it. We play it every once in a while. Like, I'm a person that doesn't like to play the same system or game for very long, like 6 months, and I'm ready for something else. And that includes Heroes and Hardships, right? I think that if I just played Heroes and Hardships, just ran Heroes and Hardships, get in a silo, not understand things that I could add from other games that would be helpful or inspire me to do things. And so I'm very big on playing different games and doing different things, right? I mean, if you, this cabinet over here is very full of games, okay, and my digital collection is much bigger, and it's just because I like trying things, and I have not played all these games. I wish, right? Nobody has time to play every game, but I'll read the book. I'll come up with ideas based on those. I mean, I got minions from somewhere. I probably Conan 2D20 at the time I was playing, and I was like, yeah, minions, minion groups and stuff. How can I use that for Heroes and Hardships? That's a good way to speed up combat with heavy lethality for portraying multiple people attacking you at once and that sort of thing. Um, yeah, but the Kickstarter itself. I have been, like I said, I've been talking to other people and asking them, what did you do to turn it around? What are you going to do? And they're like basically telling me the things that I already did. So I don't know. I think that maybe it is best to kind of do those, the GM screen and the Foundry VTT module alongside some of these settings and stuff. You're not going to get a big boost in all those sales right away, but then it still will be possible. And I have to look. I have to look at like what it's going to cost for the GM screen. It's not that I could not do it. It's just that's some money that I have to make up eventually, right? And I just I can't afford to run another big marketing campaign that's going to fail, right? So the company does fine. Even with that, we're completely fine. But is it something that I could live off of? Absolutely not. I've only once taken a dime out of that, the game account for personal use, besides like me buying like games, which is tax deductible, so I do it. So yeah, that's really the Kickstarter in a nutshell. Just kind of where I'm coming from. I would like to do something again and relaunch it in some way, but I don't know that it's going to work. Even if I did it a second time, so it's hard to it's hard to just, jump off that bridge, because it's a lot of work, and I also don't want to do another 6 months of work for it to fail again, right? And then you look at, like, how does it make you look as a designer and a publisher? Makes you kind of look like, crap. You just failed in two Kickstarters, and the same one, you just can't get it done. And so, yeah, and just when I first started, it seemed easier. Okay, the Kickstarter, and that's just 2002. So that's just 3 years ago. So 3 years ago in October, the original Heroes and Hardships launched. I had 1,300 pre-launch followers. That's double what I had this time, right? And I had some good partnerships there, but I also really, really, really was focused on doing cross promotions and stuff like that. And as the years went by, these cross promotions were harder to get. First of all, like, so people don't want, like, I have my email list is 10,000 people, right? And now maybe it's a really terrible 10,000 people on there that's never going to buy anything, but I have 10,000 people that I can tell your stuff about. Role playing games, it's not like I just, like, bought some random, people that went to Kmart, right? These are people that have actively either signed up to my mailing list through ads on Facebook, or through other, just people just doing it on their own, or people coming through, you know, uh, previous projects or whatever, and coming through. Then I have my drive-through RPG email list, which is like 5,000 people. So people are able to see stuff that I send, right? At the very least. And, so I tried to do cross promotions that way. So you talk about my project and I'll talk about yours. That's one thing that people did a lot back then. And those really don't work anymore. You might get one or two, new followers per post or something. So nobody, if it's going to be not very effective, then nobody's going to want to do it. And I think that's kind of where we are for the most part. You might see very, very small publishers, like way smaller than me, still look for that, because there's one or two or three, follows they get. They might get one, and it just depends on what your goals are. But these that cross promotional marketing, which is free, and it's the goodwill of other publishers helping each other, is just not there anymore. And yeah, it just gets into the whole industry at large right now. We have a real problem. I think there's another real problem why um, most, especially my size, like, I would like to say, hey, I'm one of those guys that get 50K every time. That would be good for me. I would be fine. Hey, do I want a million? Sure. But, like, I think you know, um, that's probably not out of reach. Um, but it's just, how do you get there, right? And yeah, Dave's video was great. I was paid advertising, though. But he did a real good job on the system for the most part, I thought. So I can post his link here if anybody wants to see it. So Dave Thumar, how do you pronounce his name? Anyway, he does a lot of reviews for basically non D&D games. They're pretty good. I will post the link down here. It was in the Kickstarter story page too. So I really like his reviews. I usually listen to them or watch them. And he did one for me and for Heroes and Hardships. I thought, like I said, I thought he did a good job, and hopefully it, like, uh, brought people did, and at least brought one person, right? So yeah, but I think, overall, I don't know if I made money on that video. So it's kind of like you keep, like, trying to push through and get some, bigger recognition. And the game's been out 3 years, or, well, 2.5 years, and it's like, when is that going to happen? So that's what a part of this project was, is to try to bring more people into the game. That way, it can expand into all these settings that I want to do and stuff like that. So, but yeah, like I was saying, so one problem that in the industry that I see in general is you have a big flood of new publishers on Kickstarter. And those publishers are pretty much strictly AI, at least for art. And I personally am not a fan of AI for art, commercial art. You can play around with it and whatever, and that's fine. I don't, whatever. That's another moral, leap people need to make to themselves. As AI, is the way it's, very energy resource heavy and stuff. Does that bother you? Whatever, right? That's not the what I'm getting at. I'm just saying that I think that a commercial thing where you just have to type in make me this thing, and I'm not very good at it either, and I play with it too. I've never used it in a commercial thing, but and it spits out an image at you, which it's been trained on real art out there, and I find it not something that I want to do. And a long time, that was a pretty big barrier for people to get into the industry because most people want nice art in their books, and that was beyond people's means. But now they just do a $10 subscription to Midjourney for a month, and they spin something up, and then they have all the art they need for their game. Now, yeah, is that art that good? I mean, maybe it's good enough. It apparently is. And they'll run their Kickstarter campaign. They'll make $1,000 or $2, but their expenses are almost zero. So it makes it inclined for something very easy for them to do. Like, how much work do you have to do? I guess you have to lay the book out. Maybe AI can do that. I don't know. AI can do a bunch of stuff now. I use it for non-creative tasks. Still, I still do too. Like, so it's getting better and better every day, really. And then they just spin out another one and another one and another one and another one and another one, and it really is causing a bloat of stuff on Kickstarter where it's harder to find your stuff. And like I was saying, for somebody like me who's going to hover between 10 and 30,000 probably, it's really harmful for me because I'm not the lowest rung of publishers, but probably one or two above that. And so that means that's going to really constrain everybody that's not a big publisher and a big, somebody who has a huge following and can make this big 6-figure projects plus. It won't hurt them, but it hurts the people that you're probably that you need to find, the findability of new projects on Kickstarter. And I used to find so many that I was interested in back in the day, just from either a spotlight or not necessarily browsing, but update recommendations, just the front page recommendations, all that stuff. And now that doesn't happen. And I want to ask people who, this AI art, who says they aren't using AI text too? It's I had actually a funny thing happen to me. I commissioned an adventure to be written for me, and when I got it, I started reading it, and I was like, "This is really weird. It's nonsensical, right?" This person had almost guaranteed that most of it was AI. I 100% believe it. It just made no sense. Made absolutely no sense whatsoever. It had to be AI. This person has written for like Modifius before. They have a adventure published by Modifius. I'll say that, and it shocked me really. But I was almost positive it was AI, and at the time I didn't have anything in my contract said no AI really. But I did say if I want any changes, I can ask for them, and you'll have to do them. And I said I want this rewritten, and they said no, and I said okay, fine, because I don't want this, and I don't want you working for me. So stuff like that too. So this stuff has been a real problem for everybody, not only in Kickstarter, but then other markets like DriveThruRPG. They don't disallow AI art in other products. They do disallow it in just for stock art now at least. And I'm just going to check my Discord because somebody's pinging me. Um, so yeah, so we do have that problem in the industry right now, and it's hurting everyone. And I don't think it's going to get any better necessarily until somebody like Kickstarter does something, And I won't say that, I think it's interesting to play around with, Corbin. I don't have any problem with people using AI for their personal games or whatever. It's fine. You can do things like matching styles and of tokens and art scenes and all that stuff. No problem. I have no real problem with that. Do I like the overall uh, data, energy trends of AI and data centers and stuff? No, but that's more of a personal thing. As far as in gaming, if you want to use a token in a game that's AI, I don't care, not really. But like as far as me selling something to you that's AI, why? Like if I'm a consumer and I'm buying something that's AI, why don't I just do it myself? It doesn't take any time. Like there's no good reason to buy something that is AI. Like I, as a publisher, am going out and finding the best artist I can afford to make cool images that you'll like to see. Right? That is what I'm doing. Um, and for text, I or one of my writing partners are trying to write things for you that are interesting and for you to, um, have fun playing with. Um, yeah, it's frustrating. So there's that. That definitely is a problem, and I've really started noticing that in the last year. It's been really bad in the last year and a half. Another thing that is not helping people, we all know about DriveThruRPG being the biggest, post Kickstarter platform to sell your games on. Pretty much every person I've talked to that, and I don't talk to like the CEO of Modifius or anybody like that, I don't know why I'm using Modifius today, but or Free League or something. I don't, those big, not, the biggest non Wizards of the Coast publishers, but like, people who are even like, more successful than Earl of Fife by far, right? You're talking about like 6-figure Kickstarters and stuff like that. Those people, sales are down across the board on DriveThruRPG, and the thought is it's really how DriveThruRPG works now that it's the new site. So, and I mean, it's just that for whatever reason, right? And I've not been able to actually tell exactly why this is, but it's very clear. It's either that the game industry has shrunk suddenly, or that DriveThruRPG has, in addition, shrunk itself for publishers that are not like, your top 20 publishers, or maybe let's just say top 50. Because one of publisher acquaintance of mine who he basically I think what did he do? He took sales, like the number of the sale. So he's like, this is sale number XYZ, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, big number. And then he compared, like he got a sale like within 5 minutes, and he compared the difference of that number, and he did that from like 2 years ago, and it's generally the same. That means that DriveThruRPG should be getting about the same amount of sales, right, over a given time. And I don't know how deep he went into the statistical analysis of this, but in general, it means that it's getting the same amount of sales. But everybody who is not a big publisher is seeing less sales. So what does that mean? It means it's traffic is being driven to those top publishers instead of everyone. And then that means DriveThruRPG has no real emphasis to change anything, because they're still getting the same amount of money as it doesn't matter who sells on the site as long as somebody sells. And if they're selling in general the same quantities that that they had before, they have no real emphasis to change anything. So you see that. I mean, my sales are probably down 50% from 2 years ago. So when the new site came out, so that's another issue. And there's really no other option. Itch is not a valid option for most tabletop role playing games. Super narrative games, super weird niche games, some OSR, nothing else. Trad games are not a thing there. You're never going to sell. And then they've been having their own issues too. It can't even pay people. The searchability of that site is horrific. And I mean, I spent some time on Itch and just wasn't worth it, so I just turned down my store. And there's really nothing else. Nothing else. There's a couple niche places out there that I dabbled in, and it's not worth it. And DriveThruRPG takes a big cut of every sale you make. Kickstarter takes about 10%, not quite. So Kickstarter takes 5% for them, and then your credit card processing fees ends up being about 3.5% ish. And so it ends up being, after there's another credit card. Usually it's 20 cents per transaction. So if the basically they do that. So if the transaction is so small, they're not losing money. So you're going to see somewhere around 9% to Kickstarter. So if I am doing a Kickstarter and I make $10,000, I'm going to get $9,100 from it. Okay, and DriveThruRPG is 30 to 35%. And so you get 30% if you're exclusive, which means you do not sell your digital games anywhere else except your own website. So they let you do that. But if you say you want to do Itch or whatever, then you would have to pay 35%. So that's a big chunk. That's a big chunk of money. Especially when you think of this, like the actual money that goes into making one of these damn things. Like I have been like really cost conscious since the core rulebook came out. The core rulebook, I did not care. I had been publishing for like 4 years. Every single cent that I made that was a profit went into an account, and I used almost all of it. And it was on art and on stuff like that. Art for Heroes and Hardships, the core rulebook, $17,000. Now, that is me just getting what I wanted by who I wanted and not being very smart about it. Okay, I totally admit to that. Whereas like Dungeon Deep and Caverns Old, Mistwraith, Heart of Tiberius, I was very careful about how much I was spending on art. And it means I had to use a lot of stock art, some stock art, about 50-50 sometimes, and just be really careful about who I'm using too. So I think Mistwraith used all three of the artists that I used that were not stock artists were in Brazil. And that wasn't necessarily on purpose, but their rates are lower. Because their cost of living is lower. And that's it wasn't exactly that the case on Dungeons Deep and Caverns Old. There's a lot of different things, but there's some people in Russia, some people in Ukraine, and one of the other stans over there. Right? Drawing a blank, sorry. But all kind of lowered cost. Like I don't know if I could afford a bunch of people from the UK or the US or the EU. Now some, yes. Like I use Kim Van Doen, I think she's in Denmark or Netherlands. She's pretty reasonable and she's great. If you remember the Dungeons Deep Caverns Old, where the Quado from Total Recall, where the dwarf is in the dwarf. That's hers, right? I love that. I love that idea. Like I was just like, because I wrote that like I don't know if it's ability or a flaw or something, where you basically have another person in you. Basically, it's Quado, right? And I had her do that do that image is pretty cool. But yeah. So yeah, buying art is a huge expense for these games. Printing can be a huge expense. On it depends on a couple factors. Number one, where are you printing? How many are you printing? Are they black and white? Are they color? That sort of thing. So most of my prints these days have been going from either Mixam, which is a smaller print house for smaller games. They do everything. They do hardcover. They do designs. They do perfect bound soft cover stuff. I've been using them, and they are somebody. It's not print on demand, so the more you buy from them, the cheaper it is per unit. So that's good. Um, when I can, okay. Sometimes it doesn't make financial sense because I'll like say, well, I just need 100 books, and then I'll compare it to Amazon KDP. So Amazon KDP is a print on demand service. However, Amazon KDP is quite nice. It is not that far off from Mixam as far as quality goes. Yes, you're going through Amazon, and there's some hurdles you have to get over with that, but generally the prints are very good. You have to kind of massage it a little bit somehow when you're doing the layout and stuff. But I'm kind of used to that now. I kind of like with soft cover books. I got to make sure that everything is pushed away from the spine. Like there's just like a bunch of the things you have to, and that's really any soft cover perfect bound book because it's glued. You can't you got to make sure it's away from the spine. But neither here nor there for that. But those are my two two places I can print, and Amazon is very nice. Like Miss Wraith, I'm actually in order to reduce the shipping charges for everybody because my warehouses are in the United States and the UK, and I just can't afford to freight things everywhere. Right? Canada, Australia, EU, just it makes no sense, right? If you do all that, you're going to spend a ton in freight for how many books you're printing. If you're printing a ton of books, you could ship them there. But if you're not printing that many books, if you have like 20 or 30, one second, 20 or 30, give me 10. 20 or 30, books in that region, it's not going to make sense, right? So we do some kind of that. So Amazon, I've been going in and entering the order by hand on the Amazon website that is applicable. So, for instance, I'll go into my KDP account and say I want to order author copy, which is at cost, and I say I want to ship that to Amazon.de. I want to use DE to print it. And so then I'll go in and obviously Chrome auto translates it so I can read the German, right? It's not German, it's English. And I'll go in and I'll at hand enter that person who's in Germany or basically anybody in the EU gets printed by Amazon DE in this case. And then UK, Australia, and then Canada. And then so what I'll do for Mistress, for instance, my Mixam proof should be here next week, and so what I'll do for them is I'll actually I'll print all of them with Mixam and send them over to my fulfillment center, and they'll send them out. So I don't because it'd be like another 100 of them, and I don't want to do it, and that should be the price of shipping there should be low enough where it's not a big deal for me to do that. So yeah, that's one thing I'm getting around like cost wise, and then Amazon, KDP is going to be typically a higher cost per unit, depending. So if I like my Mixam, if I had high enough volumes, then it's going to be lower. But if I had like 100, it's going to be very similar to Amazon. So it's just like, and the quality is so similar. some of the bells and whistles you don't get with Amazon, like you can't do interior cover printing. You can't do I'm trying to think of other things Mixam can do, or you would do on Mixam. Some of that stuff is too expensive on Mixam to do, like putting a ribbon in a book. You can't do that. You could, it's really expensive, but that's more of a hardcover thing too. And they both can do hardcovers, and maybe that's one day we'll look at that, but it just depends on how much it is. Like the H&H core rulebook offset printing was only $10 a unit, which is extremely high for an industry like doing offset printing. They usually print 10,000 copies, and so they print 10,000 copies, and the book's like $3, right? And so you have these economies of scale that works against a smaller publisher, right? I think I printed 1,500 books, and it was like around, and that includes my freight, okay, which is good, right? So freight is really it's the one thing that I almost get nervous when I have to create some of these books, right? And I've only done it once because everything else was printed in places that have local printers to where I'm shipping them to. Mixam has a UK off printer and obviously US printer. So I don't know if there's a Canadian printer, but I don't have a warehouse there anyway. So, but like when I printed in Lithuania, I had to figure out how to get those books from Lithuania to two places, to the UK and to the US. And the UK actually ended up being quite easy because the people who did fulfillment was like, oh, I'll just truck it here. And so it just went on a semi truck all the way to the UK. And then, but the US had to go on a boat. So I went on a boat all the way Black Sea, I think it's Black Sea, north there, all the way down around all the fjords and stuff. It had to go up through all that stuff because there is a channel that goes across Germany and I think out in France and all the way to the Atlantic. But those cargo containers were too big to go across them, so it had to go all the way up, all the way around, all the way down, all the way across the Atlantic. Then it came into port in Baltimore, and it sat there for like a week. My freight company at that time was maddening. I would never use them again. It's TQL. If anybody wants to look them up, do not use them. If you're a publisher, please do not use them. They're horrific. Anyway, supposedly that my fulfillment center will in the U.S. can arrange that too. So we'll see. And that goes back to I might just buy 500 GM screens now and then just ship them, and then just we can do a pre-order or definitely add them to future projects. But I don't think I'm going to probably run another whole campaign for the GM screen specifically. I don't think that's going to work. That's where I am right now. I don't know. Maybe I'll change my mind, but right now I just have not seen anything that tells me that I could have done vastly different that would have worked. So, if you have any questions, please. I don't know how many people are there. I don't know if you can actually tell here. Live chat. Participants. Oh, there's nobody here. Okay, fine. Nobody's here still. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. I don't know. I think that it's tough, interesting times in this industry, and I think that we definitely had a boom, like a role-playing game boom in and around COVID, particularly because it was kind of a couple things coming together at once. Number one, people are generally more going to stay at home and play online, so it increased our online reach for other games and stuff. One is the OGL scandal that happened with D&D that kind of pushed some people away, right? And you had a lot of people create all these D&D clones like Tales of the Valiant and whatever. So that did kind of spur people out to other games. And now we're kind of on the downcline of that, and just in general. Like D&D came out with a new edition, so that did bring some more interest into D&D again. And even if it's not like going to do what like the 2014 rules did, which was such a phenomenon for D&D, and there's probably a lot of reasons for that I really don't even know. um, but yeah, so I'm not going to stay on here much longer. But I want to just say I'm not done. Okay, I'm not going to be done. I'm very not emotional. I can be emotional. I can be like, oh shit, man, I just ruined everything I was gonna do, and I'm pissed, and I just kind of like go off the handle, and it's like I'm done. I don't need to do this anymore. Whatever. I'm not gonna do that. Okay. Maybe I was doing that 2 days ago, but I'm not done. We're gonna keep coming out with stuff. Hopefully, in some way that I still wanted to do it, and we're just gonna call this you know uh, just a blip, something that doesn't mean anything. And we do know it means some things, but we'll see. My next Heroes and Hardships campaign will be Dungeons Deep and Caverns Old, Secret of the Dark Water. So it's going to be another dwarf adventure setting expansion, rule expansion book. The first cut of the adventure is done, so that will be coming in the spring. I am publishing Scale Mail role playing game for another designer, and so that will be published under Earl of Fife Games. And if you like kind of like an OSR game that is more kind of geared to anybody of all ages, that it'll be an interesting game, and I think that should be something that people look into, especially if you want to play with younger people, or just play kind of like a more lighthearted OSR game where you're just not going to get just like your head chopped off every second. So that is coming out. That would probably be the first one next year, probably January, February. I don't really know. So that is out there. I'll put the link to that one in the description, so you can go follow that project page. It's up. You can see all the things. So there's a lot of information on it there that you can look at. And then we'll just keep going. Like I think the day before the Kickstarter, I was talking about like things I want to do, and I have so many things. Like I'll run like a 3 session arc of some game and kind of like to test the setting. Like, did people like it? Did I like it? Was it good enough to do anything with? Like, of just ideas I have. And there's some of those that I really, really, really want to push, and we'll see where they come down the line. There's a lot of things I want to do. There's a lot of ideas I have that I think are good settings that people might be interested in, and that's where my interest really lies. At one point I wanted to do a whole magic book just on magic, but this tells me that I don't know if those kind of supplements will work for H&H, at least right now. Something that's purely mechanical or purely for the system. It almost needs something to help it, right? Like some sort of setting, some sort of adventure to go along with it. And of course, I will be generally pairing things up. So Dungeons Deep Caverns Old is H&H and 5e. And although I haven't done that with Mist Wraith or Heart of Tiberius yet, I'm definitely considering it. And I just got to figure out the right way to do it. Because Mist Wraith is, to me, a little bit. I mean, it's a basically a 80, a 70-page adventure with a bestiary and a regional like map thing. So I'm not sure it's 100% something that could stand on its own. We'll see. So I'm hoping that I'll have more things in the next month or two, more ideas of what we're going to do. Definitely look out for Scanwell. That's coming early next year. I think it'll be a great game, and I would appreciate anybody's support if you think that I give it the Jason stamp of approval, if that means anything. So yeah, just hang out. I'm going to try to do these a lot more often, so I can just talk. And if you're available to jump on the chat, that's great. I love talking to people like that. I can talk about games in general all day long. Probably my wife will tell you. Unfortunately for her, I just yab about, hey, do you see, this is kind of cool. Like, do you see what I did this or I played this? And she's just like, her eyes just glaze over. But so if you want to, your eyes want to glaze over instead, just make sure you follow our YouTube page, and I'll announce everything in the Discord too, or at least try to, if I don't forget. Yeah, so follow YouTube page, follow me on Kickstarter, my profile. Go to my profile and say follow, Earl of Fife Games. Join my newsletter. All these things will help you be, inundated with anything I'm doing. Okay. So newsletter is good. I send deals out on that at times. So I try not to spam. You're probably never going to get something more than once every couple of weeks. Build up to a Kickstarter maybe, but so join that newsletter. Join the Discord if you haven't, and follow me on Kickstarter. And yeah, so and if there's any games that you're looking for, or any types of games that you're looking for, just let me know, and I'll like kick the tires and see if it's something that is viable, and we'll go from there. Anyway, I do appreciate everybody who has been in the chat. It's been great talking to Corbin, David, James, or anybody else I missed. Sorry. And I appreciate your time for this hour and 20 minutes that I've been talking. And I will see you guys around. Just feel free to reach out on Discord. I'm pretty available as much as possible if I'm not, working my other job with my kids or playing soccer like a weird adult. I will get back to you, or sleeping, I suppose. Anyway,